first of all, I think on a global basis, we're experiencing a golden age of travel that's really being driven by two, underlying trends. One, middle classes around the world are growing at a faster and faster rate. And two, people want experiences, right? Not everybody thinks it's young people, but the reality is young people probably a bit more, but generally people want experiences. And so what that's doing is fueling a lot of demand for tourism around the world. And so I think that the future of tourism broadly is great. And I think in Africa, it is particularly good in the sense that if you look at urbanization over the next 20 years, Africa will lead the way relative to anybody else around the world. As a result, the top 10 fastest growing cities in the world in the next 20 years should be on the African continent. The biggest working age population will be in Africa, and inbound international tourism over that 20 years is expected to double or triple. That's really good for tourism, which is why I'm here. It's a really important market for us. While we've been here for a long, long time, 60 years on the continent, we think that there's tremendous opportunity going forward.
Right. Of course, you mentioned the opportunities that are there, and of course, someone was mentioning the fact that Africa's population explosion will be one of the continent's biggest challenge. As investors who are actually investing in one of the sectors that will or has a potential to produce the millions of jobs that will be required to accommodate this growing population, what sort of strategies do you think should already be put in place today so that we can be able to have a situation where you tap into this enormous
it's
resource?
Really important. Think about it this way. We can't succeed without tapping into that enormous population, particularly of young people, because the bulk of people that we need to be able to operate and deliver great experiences for our customers are young people. And no matter what new technologies come out, in the end, we will always be a business of people serving people. So it's mission critical, both here in Africa and around the world, that we are able to tap into those opportunities, particularly to attract youth. So we have a number of different things that we're doing, here on the African continent, working with our partner, the International Youth Foundation, where I serve on their board as a plug. We have a program, Passport to Success, which is really about giving young people a basic chance in terms of having basic life skills and the basic skills to be able to have their first job. The other thing that we're doing here and around the world, but particularly important in Africa, is expanding our apprenticeship program. So once we get people that have the basic skills that, where they can have a job, then we want to bring them into the fold and have them have real-time experiences in the business, so that they sort of grow and learn and figure out the business, and then can help us do what we do best, which is deliver great experiences. But we have to succeed. 1 in 10 jobs in the world is in travel and tourism. 1 in 5 jobs in the world that are new jobs is in travel and tourism. I don't have the exact stat, but I would bet that more than it'll be higher than the 1 in 5 on the African continent, just because there's so many young people that need to be connected with opportunities.
Right. Let's switch gears and talk about Hilton's specific growth plans. We understand 60 years, you say, operating in the African continent, but what more do you want to achieve?
Growth is going to be, I think, quite significant over the next 5, 10, 15, 20, longer than I'll live. And that's because of the trends that I discussed. The underlying trends in demand for tourism and need of hotel rooms is going to go up. We've been here for 60 years on the continent. We've been here in Nairobi, for 50 years. So we've always been pioneers. But the reality is we're still quite small by my standards. We have 100 hotels either that are open or that are in our pipeline. And I think we have the potential to have many multiples of that. Our goal is to double that presence in the next 5 years. We've just announced over the last year our African Growth Initiative, where we're going to invest $50 million ourselves in working with partners around Africa to bring more of our hospitality to life. That will cross a bunch of our brands. Obviously our core Hilton brand, but a lot of it will, and our DoubleTree by Hilton brand, but a lot of it will end up being in the limited service space with our Hilton Garden Inn brand, because that's a mid-market, mid-price brand, and when you boil it all down here and around the world, but particularly in Africa, a lot of the demand for hotel rooms will be at mid-price point.
Right. Before I let you go, let's take some time now. Talk deep at this particular deal. There's an announcement, on the Big Five initiative, $1 million investment to promote sustainable travel and tourism in Africa. Of course, you're going to be focusing on youth opportunity, water stewardship, anti-human trafficking, and of course, local sourcing and protecting wildlife. Let's talk about this. Yeah.
All very important. Most of those are important around the world. Some of those are particularly important. The last one, protecting wildlife, both the wildlife itself and how we source products in the hotels. All of that is particularly important on the African continent. But the underlying theme is, I talked about a golden age of travel, and I believe it. I think for the rest of my life, your life, decades and decades to come, demand is going to be off the charts good for the industry. Having said that, the risk in the industry is we're not proper stewards of that opportunity. And the way that that would happen is that we're not watching out for the environment, that we're not taking care ultimately of the people, or in the case of Africa, the wildlife, that we're not protecting our destinations. So if we don't do that and create sustainable tourism that can go for 5, 10, 20, 30, 50, and 100 years, ultimately we will diminish that opportunity. So we set out some broader goals. The initial $1 million that you talked about is part of a broader goals that are set against the 2030 UN goals of UN sustainability goals. And our goal across the world and here in Africa is to reduce our environmental impact by half and to double our investment in social impact. So the initial $1 million is a little bit of both, but it's focused on both. The investment is obviously on social impact, but a number of those of our Big Five, as we call them, will obviously have positive environmental impacts.
Right, we're talking of $1 million. So how will the African economies get a slice of this particular fund?
Well, that will ultimately be activated with lots of local partners, some of whom we have today, and others that we're going to develop over time. Yeah. So I would encourage anybody that has good ideas on how to be innovative in any of our Big Five areas to reach out and talk with us.
Right. How do you see the hospitality industry of the future looking like?
I think, in a sense, there'll be new technology that will change the industry, but at its core, it will remain a business of people serving people. We'll always be a big employer. Creating really special experiences for our customers will always have a huge element of the human experience. And so, as I said, the future of hospitality is bright. I think more people want to travel for lots of different reasons. I think if we're responsible about, as stewards of the industry, both our company and other companies, I think we're going to wake up in 10 or 20 years and this industry is going to have grown a lot and served a lot more customers and put a lot more smiles on people's faces.